Fine, we are live. Let me see. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, everybody. I'm Sudha Jamte, and this is Sudha Live. Thank you for joining me the end of the week. And for those of you who are here joining me from Asia, thank you for finding time on your morning in wherever you are. I'm joining you here from California. And this is Sudha Live. Thank you for joining me the end of the week. And for those of you who are here joining me from replay of myself. Okay, so that's how I sound to you. Okay, so Sudha Live, for those of you who are new to this is my happy hour. I'm able to talk to you about AI, and I'm going to be talking to you about generative AI. And I focus on AI opportunities, jobs. There's a lot of call for papers. It seems like this season for it. And what am I missing? Events. So there's a bunch of those that I'll be sharing. I'm not just going to give you a list of, what's happening here as a laundry list. Everything that we are doing here, you can actually go to my newsletter, bit.ly/jamte newsletter, and get all the links. And Pariya Sarin, thank you so much for your work with Weekly Wed and for the newsletter, because Pariya is now sending out the newsletter every Monday. Okay, let me show you where that is for those of you who are new, and then we can jump in straight away and get started. Jamte newsletter. Yes, we switched it from our Sunday mornings to Monday evenings, because it's global. We just wanted to make sure that it reaches everybody. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. This is where I'm. So bit.ly/jamte newsletter. So you can actually go look at the archive right here and see all the past newsletters, because that's where I'm sharing the jobs and calls. So if you just said she spoke about some call for paper, or she spoke about this event or this learning resource, how do I find it? And you can go back to that week, and you can go to the entire playlist of this also, of all my past Sudha Live and on my YouTube. Okay, so some of you who are joining here on YouTube, you can see the recording, but I'm going to look at LinkedIn only for any follow-up questions. So that's the one that was talking back to me. So I'll have to figure out how to do that without hearing my voice all over again. Okay, so we've been talking about generative AI, and I had this whole series on generative AI at Weekly Wednesday, which is our global speaker series, and I get to meet my students. And we have a whole series going on generative AI. So what I want to do is I want to drill down deeper. So what is special about generative AI? Yes, it generates content, and it writes poetry, it draws pictures, it can create music, and that's the promise, right? And you hear a lot of people sharing amazing looking pictures or like scripts and claiming that this is coming from generative AI. I have written this book, Generative AI, a primer for product and business managers. So you want to understand the tech of it, the social implication, and the business side and business models that's evolving, how to make sense of what's happening in this generative AI landscape, even get a no-code AI version of what the models are. It's all in there. But I want you to join me in this hour to get a reality on, okay, when you're still talking about generative AI, the buzz picked up last November, and we've been doing generative AI for a while. What is the big deal? Is this real that you can just sit back and it's going to do your job? The short answer I'll tell you is no. So one of the things I try to do is at Global South in AI, Susanna Raj and I did a presentation. Actually, Susanna Raj and I and Pariya did one of the posters, and then Susanna and I did one on gender equality. And I took the poster, and we have a call at Global South in AI. And this time I said, you could actually tell us a good use case, not so good use case, or a harmful use case, or a potential use case you want to see of generative AI from your country. So we're getting pings on ideas. So you can talk to us and you can join our Slack or just go to generativeai.org and it's, do that, submit that, right? But what I want to talk to you about is we wanted to make it easy. So if you're not a researcher, you don't know to build an AI poster, you could just create a piece of art. And Susanna is an artist. And so she said, create a piece of art because it's easy for her. And I am no artist. So I just thought, okay, how do I do this? Can I get an AI to do this? So the gender equality poster was sharing our research, and it was showing that there are words in different languages. We looked at Bari language from South Sudan, Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, and Tamil from India, and compared it with English and said, what are the words that describe a woman, a girl, and different profiles of girls over years or their different affiliations. There are many different words that describe a woman in different languages, and they all seem to have an attachment to patriarchies, uh, focus on guys. And so a woman is not just a woman. Even a word woman has a man in there. And so what our conclusion was, that it is basically having a man shadow the women, and it's not actually equal. So that was what we were presenting in the AI poster. So I said, if somebody is going to present this and make a piece of art, can I get generative AI to generate it for me? So let me share the screen. And I told you I'm no artist. So if generative AI is going to do this for me and I'm not an artist, it is going to generate art. First of all, I'm expected to talk to it and enter a prompt. So I need to say, man shadow. That's my vision, right? My artistic vision for not being an artist is I'm going to say a man shadow on a woman, right? And I say generate image. And I'm using Scribble Diffusion. In Scribble Diffusion, you've seen me before where I will scribble. Okay, so here you see this looks like a jail on the left. That looks like a mermaid on the left also behind the jail. And here this person looks like maybe Gandhi. And I see he has two shadows. So I don't see how this reflects a man shadow on a woman. And if I talk to Robert Schwenkter, who's an expert on prompt engineering, he will immediately tell me the right words to put in the prompts to get the AI to generate what I want to generate. So I send this to Robert. Robert put this through Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, and he was not able to get the image I was visualizing in my artistic mind. For not being an artist, just being able to put things in words. So I just wanted to give you a sample, and I did this live as we were speaking. So what I wanted to communicate here is generative AI is generating images, it's generating art. Supposedly here, this is not an art what I'm showing, but you see the beautiful picture. So the magic seems to be in prompting it. So understanding what is in the brain of the AI, what does it know? So the same thing applies to writing, creating, marketing copy, writing that beautiful script that people are saying AI is creating. All that goes back to prompting it right. And so let me get this up straight up front. I do not believe that you're not an artist like me and you can get AI to generate art, or you have no clue of where the script starts and ends and what makes it up and somehow magically get it to build out a script. But there are pieces of it that you can generate, because it is generating words, it's generating images. So how do you do that? And so especially for language, there is a whole field called prompt engineering that is evolving. And so Robert Schwenker has been researching this, playing with all different tools, different ways of doing prompt engineering. In fact, on my LinkedIn, I had shared a LinkedIn learning course on prompt engineering. What are the techniques by which you can make the AI do something? For example, if you're talking to ChatGPT, you could tell ChatGPT, you could ask ChatGPT something and it'll give you an answer, right? And then you can say, pretend you are a physicist who is from MIT, and some kind of prelude of who you are, and it, based on that, it would give you a different answer with a little bit more math. So if I just go in and talk to ChatGPT, it would not give me math. But if I try to pretend like I'm a certain persona, it starts going into a different part of its training in its foundation model, and it says, this person understands math, and I need to give them a different answer. So prompt engineering essentially is kind of hacking into the brain of the AI to what it should be doing for you. So it's not as innocent as I tell it to draw the diagram picture that I wanted, because it failed miserably and gave me a Gandhi picture with two shadows, and there was no women in the picture. I was asking a woman and a shadow of a guy. So for those of you who are prompt engineering gurus, people who are playing with Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, I challenge you to take that prompt or make your own prompt and get me a picture that shows a woman and it shows a guy, and the shadow of the guy being so big that it falls on the women. And I can tell you, you call Susanna or anybody else who's an artist, they can whip this up in a minute, maybe 5 minutes, because Susanna is a perfectionist. But you talk prompt engineering and try it. And I would like to see what you come up with, and you can post that in the comment on LinkedIn. I'm sure you can add a picture or reply back to me. I'm happy to see that. And so what we are doing is we're going to have the series on generative AI with our speakers. So we invited Robert Schwenker to come in next week. He's been doing a study group with some of my students on prompt engineering. And so I said, you've done a version of this talk before, but I want you to do a hands-on exercise and give us a webinar on prompt engineering, the latest in prompt engineering and how to do this. I think he's going to do it more text-based. So how do you get into that? If you go to Business School of AI, which is my umbrella site, here, let me go back there. If you go to Business School of AI on LinkedIn, and in there is an event called Prompt Engineering Webinar with Robert Schwenker. And thank you, Peria, for setting this up. So you can sign up and show up. If you're already in a regular in Weekly Ved, I'm sure Peria will send you an invite. So then that's good. But what we are going to do is, usually we invite handful of people to Weekly Ved. This time I believe we can take 20 people. So it has to be on a first come first serve basis. And we also have a MailChimp link that you would see from here, where you can sign up. And you can come in and say, okay, here's my email, I joined the meeting. So then you would be part of the interactive group of people who are going to be sitting at the webinar. So I will be streaming this Weekly Ved, which is 8 o'clock on Wednesdays, California time. I'll be streaming this on YouTube, here on LinkedIn, at Business School of AI, as I always do. So you'll get that if you just want to watch it. You could post a question and I could, field it for you. But if you want to do hands-on exercise with Robert, and then that would be the right place to do that. Okay, so I told you about prompt engineering, and there's been a bunch of other calls. So before I go to that, I want to show you a very interesting speaker we had last week at Weekly Ved. Let me share the screen. See if you can recognize this person. This is Dr. Blessing Ogbuakiri, and he's one of those mavericks with data, and he knows to find data from very rare places. So he takes Twitter data, Reddit data, and he focuses on Global South, and he's done research on looking at Twitter data to get support for policy on vaccine hesitancy. And he started out right at COVID time. So this is great. And he has a bunch of research. You can follow up on that. So he came and spoke to us, but he also has a lot of work that he is doing in Global South. In Global South in AI, he has presented this poster last year. He's also involved in Black in AI. And this year, he's actually the co-chair for workshops for all of NeurIP's 2023 conference. And so he was our weekly WED speaker. So if you go to my YouTube, you will find the weekly WED recordings. I think it's bit.ly/weekly WED playlist, and you can see them. But we had a very fun discussion towards the end. We said, okay, all these tweets are English tweets, and 18% of South African population is actually on Twitter, and we were analyzing that data, or he had done analysis of the data. We were having a Q&A around that. So I had a fun discussion about that. So I want to show you that. Let me put this in theater mode. Okay, let me just show you this. Yeah, it is in theater mode. It works for situations, okay, where it makes sense, where like sentiment of the population or specific use cases that is not represented in how we think about it from outside specific countries, right? When we build this is my continuation of the discussion, so bear with me for a minute. I wonder, when you have English speaking tweets that were collected and it did influence the population, if it was, were there like language, are there, is it possible to tweet in other languages? Like I know in Indian languages, we have a way, I mean, we have like, I've seen in Indian languages called English and Tanglish, which is like the local language, but written using Latin script, like using English alphabets. And I know Singapore has that. There is a version of that like that in Brazil, where they speak in their language, their words are their language, but what you see is English alphabets. Do you have something like that in any of the African languages?
Yeah. Is it like official? In Nigeria, there's what we call pidgin English.
Yeah.
Pidgin English. Pidgin English is more like a broken kind of English. So we can say, in English, they say, let us go. Like if you want to go to somewhere, can say, can we go here or let us go? But if it is pidgin English, they will say, make we they go. Make we they go. You see, English works, but does not, it does not really translate to, what you know as English, except if you have to like think deeply to understand that. In South Africa, they have something similar, but their own is not pidgin English. Their own is their, most times it's their native language, which when they are typing, they start with English, they might just conclude it with their native language.
Okay, so I want to pause here because I want to share some AI opportunities that I promised. But this is such a fascinating discussion, and we went longer than our usual weekly WED. So if you're interested in the data and the machine learning on the data and the pre-processing and all, and vaccine hesitancy data and analysis that was done, this is the first hour. And then this last 25 minutes, because we did this extra, is on this language and discussion about language. And I believe I showed Lanfrica. So
I think I have to check. Can you send me the link?
Yeah, it is called lanfrica.com. And okay. In there, if you go to browse records, I will put this on LinkedIn for those of you.
Okay. Okay.
I've done a screen grab of our presentation today and shared my learning on LinkedIn, where this was streaming, where this is still streaming. But I will also come and put this link here. So I'm a big fan of Lanfrica, so I hope you will check out Lanfrica, because the languages we were talking, including the Pidgin Nigerian language that he was talking about, is all available as a data set from Lanfrica. So it's very fascinating for me from our work from Global South in AI to see so many different language models, native data sets that's been created. And I'm being introduced to more languages than I knew existed. And also these new evolving languages, which are kind of, I would say hybrid languages of some kind. So it's very fascinating for me. So I'm very fascinated by LLMs and language models, and specifically, so I was talking to you about prompt engineering. So that is to bring you to the webinar with Robert Schwenker, if that's your thing, right? You go to Business School of AI and sign up, or onto the MailChimp link, and you would be able to do the interactive session. If you're not going to be in the interactive session, just watch the streaming. I can always do it weekly with, so that's fine, right? This language models that I'm very fascinated about is my where my heart is with my global south and AI work and all that I'm working on. I'm just thinking about what languages are represented. If you just look at languages from all the different LLM models, you get 7 languages actually, which are natively trained, and then 95 languages which are trained by zero shot learning, which is basically transfer learning from the base model to any small data set. So it does like very basic things. It's like me speaking Spanish, because I've been trying to learn Spanish, and I speak very little Spanish. In fact, if you talk to me and ask me something in Spanish, I'll freeze. Then I will think slowly. So that's how ChatGPT talks 95 other languages. And then if you go start talking something more intelligent and want to get into a conversation or watch a movie, it acts like me. So that's not okay if that's your hometown language and you want to really solve problems and do something. And so that's where I've been focusing on with Susanna Raj, saying, can we build machine translation and the necessary data sets and the necessary transliterations for models for the 700 plus languages of the world? And we can't do it. I don't know all the languages. So can we empower people? Can we do skill development on that and build curriculum? So coming from my work teaching at Stanford, teaching at Business School of AI, teaching at Barcelona Technology School, obviously I will do this ethical flavor of this that is inclusive, but I want to teach not just AI, but generative AI language models, so that you can go build machine translation. So if you're watching this, wherever you are in the world, if you're working on machine translation for multiple languages, I want to talk to you, because my goal is, how do we do this from building the curriculum to teach somebody, to arm them to go build machine translation for their language, and then make it scalable so that it works for multiple other languages of the world. I can tell you there are 22 official languages in India, and they are, and there are hundreds of other languages, and they come from at least 3 different roots that I know of. And so it's not the same as, if I just say all Indian languages and I can do the translation. I cannot build a machine translation engine for that. And same thing we saw in Lanfrica, there are hundreds and hundreds of languages in the African continent, among African countries, and they all don't come from similar roots. And so it's not just easy to do one machine translation engine. So I want to see, is there a core machine translation curriculum we can create? Can we create a chat and train, use that for training the world? Can we use a machine translation engine that we build out that can be scaled to more languages? I'm not ambitious to get to 700 plus languages of the world. Can it work for 5 related languages in a region? And the more important thing is, what are these languages going to do? Right? If I build this machine translation, what is it going to do for the local region? So if you go to globalsouthinai.org, you can see all the different papers that was presented, the posters from last year, the amazing examples. So, but when you're thinking about it, you're going to say, what does it do for me? What does it do for my region? What problem do I want to solve? Where can it help with translation? So for example, my student, Aisha Tugudape, got me started in this, even before generative AI and language models, before the word foundation model existed a couple years back, I think 3 years back, or it might be 4 years back. So she came to my Stanford class. She's a speech technologist from Germany, and her grandmother speaks Hausa in Nigeria. And she basically said, I want to be, so when I was teaching her with, AI with NLP and no code, she was basically saying, can I build NLP a chatbot which will do translation. This is the old-fashioned NLP, not the generative AI intelligent chatbots. Now she can do amazing wonders with that. She said, can I give a translation for my grandmother from Hausa language to Arabic when she goes and visits Dubai? And we are talking about two languages. Today, if you see machine translation is done from English to one language, English to the other language. So you don't have cross language translations easily that I'm aware of. And those of you who are watching this, if you know that, tell me. I'm happy to learn that and, go into that world, because, I want cross, the Tower of Babel here with multiple languages to collapse so that you can have everybody talking to each other easily, right? So she wanted Hausa language to Arabic translation and a chatbot so that the grandmother would go shopping and she can, talk in Arabic or she can talk in Hausa, right? Whichever was her comfort one. So at that point, Hausa was not in one of the languages in Google Translate. After that, with zero shot learning, Hausa is included, but I don't think Hausa is of the great quality where you can really do a conversion to Arabic and she can still shop. So that application is still waiting. But what it taught me is there are low resource languages. They don't have enough data set. They're not represented inclusively. So that pulled me into this whole Global South in AI. But I am interested in building machine translation. So when I keep saying machine translation, what am I talking about? How do you do that? So let me give you a resource I found recently. And this is thanks to Cobus Graying. Let me share that. It's a beautiful Medium article by Cobus. Thank you, Cobus. It talks about bootstrapping a chatbot with a large language model. And what they are doing is essentially using OpenAI. And you have multiple options and multiple models. And I'm not endorsing anybody, I'm not biased to anybody. But when I find good resources, I'm open to share that with you. So Cobus basically is saying, how do you harness the power of OpenAI to create a chatbot from scratch? So they've given this, right, in great detail. But what I liked, and given my work with AIX design of how you design AI, and the world of generative AI forces you to prompt and chat, right? So you prompt and the AI gets you what you want, and you prompt again and you have a conversation. So that's how what we were building as conversational AI has now become intelligent chatbots, right? And you can just take a data set and train the AI to do that. So that's what I'm talking about. How do you build a chatbot? And Cobus is talking about building a chatbot completely from playground using OpenAI. But the thing that excited me is Cobus has come with something called an intent documents. It's a new concept. And basically they said, okay, in conversational AI, we always had pre-intelligent chatbots. We had this thing like the AI is chatting with us, even a voice assistant. If I'm talking to Google Home or Alexa, they don't understand the context, then they lose it. Or we have to program for specific intent. In the previous NLP world, we have to say, okay, I'm building a chatbot for a banking customer service for a client. What do you need to do? What are the reasons they would come for? They want to open an account, they want to close an account, they want to check their balance, and they have their money is stolen, they want to complain something, or there's lots of different use cases, and you have to understand the intent of the customer. When we started doing intelligent chatbot from the ChatGPT world, we ended up into prompt engineering and we stopped thinking about intent. So what Cobus is saying, that take the concept of intent and build out this intent document, and then they're kind of building this out. So here is, let me show you the URL, and I will also put it in the newsletter. I'll put it in the LinkedIn chat in a couple minutes, but this is Cobus Graying's Medium, bootstrapping a chatbot with a large language model. And they've given a step-by-step instruction, and here's the architecture, or how you're doing zero shot clustering, embeddings, and all of that stuff, right? So this is not a no code option, but it is using OpenAI if you can do that. So this is for those of you who are ready to just get started in building a chatbot. But what I want to do is, I want to be able to do a machine translation from any language to any other language. And I want to know, can I build this into a chatbot into a very scalable way? So if you have options, if you have somebody working on this, If this is your thing, talk to me, because I want to hear from you, because I might collaborate with you if that is interesting for you. Okay, so now before I close out, because we are reaching the end of our time here, I am looking at my phone because I'm looking for my notes for you. So the call for paper, I already shared Global South in AI and Black in AI. I believe August 18th is the deadline for the calls. There's a new call from LX AI, and they're going to be at ICCV. So they have a call for papers August 10th. Then I already told you about KCD El Salvador. That is coming end of September. There is I also told you about Dr. Charles' proposal. Um, there's a bunch of reports that I want to share and a few more jobs that I want to share. So I will be putting that out in the newsletter. And one of the other topics that is in my radar is about the AI ethics of it. So I showed you prompt engineering and how you have to learn prompt engineering. Otherwise, you prompt the AI, it doesn't do what you want to do. So Robert is going to teach you that. So you're covered there. The other thing is, okay, when you're using different tools, are they done ethically? What data are they trained on? Is it on stolen land here? Are we, then do we want to, use that, and do we feel okay with ourselves making money of that? So there's been some research on that, and some of that was shared in my LinkedIn profile in recent times. So I'm very fascinated about how to go about this, how to think about this, what is ethical, what AI, because AI is not been explainable and transparent. So it's the same thing. So now if AI is generative AI and it is still not explainable, so then how do how do you actually get to the bottom of it, right? So that is the piece that I'm thinking about. Let me see if I can find this here. Let me share that. 1 second. Let me get the actual link. Um, I think Susanna Raj shared this with me, but the article is originally from Joy Bualambini. She is a force in the AI ethics world. Okay, where is Joy's profile? Okay, here is Dr. Joy. Get my glasses. So Dr. Joy Bualamwini has been a force in getting the US Congress to understand how facial recognition technologies have been biased. So we have a ban on them at a federal level and in many cities. And so she runs this Algorithmic Justice League as a nonprofit. So she shared an audit of Midjourney. This is one of those tools. What I showed you is Scribble Diffusion. The two famous ones are Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. And Midjourney is one where a lot of people use, and it's so she's done a audit on that to look at to examine the machine representations of autism. And so that is here. And so to see whether is AI being ableistic. Let me get the sound up.
Okay, let's ask. I believe this person is claiming AI is racist. It is. Ableist too. Prove it. Okay, let's ask it to generate an autistic person. So, and let's do it again. And once more. And again. And then, and how about, are we starting to see a pattern? You seem to think you're proving something. Here's more. And more. And some more. And how about this? And another one. More. 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 Do you see any diversity, say race, gender, age? Oh. Plus, most were skinny and, weirdly enough, a disproportionate abundance of red hair. How many did you do until you gave up after more than 100? And the closer you look, you start to notice other trends. Like, were any of them smiling? It was all moody, melancholy, depressing. I noticed you used lifelike, photoreal, and photojournalism in your prompts. When I didn't include those, I'd get puzzle pieces in everything. Some of these are cartoons, others are whatever this is. Ugh. So AI is racist, sexist, ageist, and not only ableist, but uses harmful puzzle imagery from hate groups like Autism Speaks. Why? The AI we have today is not artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence doesn't exist yet.
I'm not
This is
going
just
there.
machine learning. Now, here's a bit of an oversimplification, but this machine learning focuses on patterns. It looks for the majority of similarities and then excludes outliers. So if the data that it's accessing is mostly young white boys in this case, it will amplify that bias. So are you saying that in order for AI to be an effective tool, you have to be smarter than the AI? Scary thought, huh? For someone who is looking to confirm their biases or is unaware of their subconscious bias, it becomes a tool of the oppressor.
Okay. So I love this because I've done courses with Susanna Raj on inclusive AI, and it summarizes that beautifully, and it gives you a beautiful report from one of the famous generative AI tools that gets images done for us. So anyway, so I showed you image generation from AI, and I'm ending with image generation from AI. But the first one was to teach you prompt engineering, and Robert is going to teach that. So if that's your thing, come to Weekly Bed and join us. And 20 of you will get to interact various different prompts. If you're already doing this, and come get better at this, because Robert is a real pro on that, very, very passionate about that. And interesting change, we are going to have Pariyasarin do the interview, and I'm going to take a sad back seat and sit and learn prompt engineering with you. The last part of what we were seeing kind of led to what we were talking about AI ethics in the past, and it's here. So I want to go deeper into that. So I've requested Susanna Raj to start working on a AI ethics for generative AI course with me, and that is going to come. So in fall, in Business School of AI, we're planning a course on prompt engineering, one on general generative AI, like I do with no code, explain the models. If I can get David Kerrigan's time, he'll teach us the business of generative AI, and AI ethics with Susanna Raj. And one thing I'm on the fence on is, do we need a course on fine tuning? And if you are in enterprise and you have data and you are going to do fine tuning, or what I was talking to earlier about building machine translation and chatbots for different languages, is also done by fine tuning. So you can take an existing AI like Playground and fine tune it. I believe you don't start with Playground, you have to take a model. So we could take Bloom as one of the generative AI models, fine tune it with a data set to create a translation for a different language. So fine tuning, is that something that's interesting for you? So prompt engineering, general generative AI, understanding models, that's in my book if you just want to read. But if you want a class, that's something we are looking at. Generative AI for business, and AI ethics is on the table right now. But fine tuning, if that's your thing, I would love to figure out a course for you. And I'm thinking, where we are in these courses, we are thinking about fall, in September. Again, my courses are online and diverse and open to all. So it'll be like a 5 weeks online course. So, but beyond all this, I want to get a lay of the land on how do you build LLM chatbots and machine translation for multiple languages. So talk to me if you're working on it, if you have opinions on it, if you've tried something, if it didn't work for you, whatever it is, I want to hear from you. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. I have a bunch of jobs and events that I will post online at the Jamte newsletter. And I'm going to wrap up and hope you all stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you at Weekly Wed, or I'll see you back here at Sudha Live. And if you are considering one of the calls and you want to chat with me, whether it's Global South in AI or any of the others that I'm sharing here, I'm happy to talk to you. And I know some of my students from my previous Stanford class have been wanting to get into research. I saw a journal call for generative AI articles. If you have a topic you're working on or you want to get into that, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make a publication on something that I'm working on in that. So you can talk to me. I'm happy to include you if that makes sense. Okay. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thanks everybody. Stay safe. Bye. I'm going to stop the live stream now first.